Let's start with this. We're awaiting the press conference from the FBI on the arrest of the pipe bomber in January of 2021. You, as we were talking about earlier on the program, Congressman, have seen firsthand the consequences of political violence. And unfortunately, the number of political related violence issues seem like they are accelerating. Is that the sense that you have, and how would you assess where we are right now in terms of the temperature, the danger, and the violence that unfortunately it typifies too much of our conversation, it feels like, politically today?
Yeah, well, first, Clay and Buck, thank you for having me. And it's sad to see that politics today has gotten so toxic in terms of we all have disagreements, and I mean our country has always celebrated the fact that we don't all think alike and we can express those differences in a free and open society. And you know what? If you and I disagree, you can vote against me at the ballot every 2 years. We settle our differences at the ballot box. And for anybody to think that political violence is okay, it's not. And yes, I've seen it firsthand. We still see it more and more lately, and it's got to stop. I mean, Charlie Kirk's assassination, was just another example, but it's far from an isolated case. And, the pipe bombing, I mean, it's sad that it took this long. I mean, it took years to figure it out, but I'm glad. I applaud the FBI for staying on the case and for finally, making an arrest because, he intended, luckily he wasn't successful, but he intended to blow up a building. I mean, this is insane.
Congressman Scalise, appreciate you being with us here. What are some of the key things that you think can get done before Congress goes into recess? What's your focus as we're rounding up here the end of the year in 2025?
Yeah, as we're in the beginning of December, there's still a lot more we want to do by the end of this year and just the next few weeks. We're in the middle of putting together a bill on healthcare that'll lower healthcare costs for families. I was in a meeting this morning with the Doctors Caucus. We have a caucus of medical doctors who serve in Congress. We have some great ideas. I've been meeting with other members over the last few weeks, and we've put together a package of bills, and we're going to ultimately bring this to the floor soon. I don't even know exactly when. In the next probably 2 weeks, we're building consensus, and once we have that consensus, you're going to see a series of bills this month in December on the House floor to lower healthcare costs. And I'm not talking about just shoveling hundreds of billions more dollars into the Affordable Care Act that has not been working for families. I mean, since that law passed, what's known as Obamacare, you've seen an increase in premiums on families by 80%. So clearly the Affordable Care Act has been anything but affordable. What we want to do is give families options, allow you to do things like pooling together association health plans so that small businesses can pool together and get the buying power of a large company so that those premiums cost a lot less. Things like health savings accounts where you can, even if you're in an ACA plan, right now you're only trapped in that plan. How about if we let families have the flexibility to where you can take that existing money and move it to a plan that's better for your family? If you find a plan that has a lower deductible cost, a lower monthly premium, you should be able to go and buy that plan. Just like you look on TV, you've got all these commercials for car insurance and other products that are fighting for your dollar because there's competition. Right now in health insurance, you don't have competition because the marketplace is really focused on forcing everybody into the Unaffordable Care Act. We want to make that more flexible so families have options to lower their premiums. And we'll be bringing those bills to the floor in the next few weeks.
By the way, press conference has started with the FBI. We are monitoring it. Attorney General Pam Bondi addressing the arrest right now. Congressman,
and by the way, there are a lot of other bills. I'm sorry to jump in again, but you did ask a broader question about what are we doing the rest of this month. That's one important package we're going to be bringing. We're bringing a number of other bills. We've got some housing affordability bills that are going to be going through committee next week and the Financial Services Committee, and then coming to the House floor this month probably. We've got some other bills that are focused on lowering costs in other areas. We've done a lot on energy production, on taxes so that nobody has tax increases, but we also help no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. So a lot of blue-collar workers are going to be able to get really big benefits in terms of more money in their paychecks. We're working on other things that'll lower inflation, lowering interest rates. So we're bringing bills on all of those fronts. In addition to the normal appropriations process, we're bringing what's called the National Defense Authorization Act, hopefully next week, the bill that sets all the priorities for our nation's defense. Very important bill, usually a very bipartisan bill. Hopefully that's going to be on the floor next week. So we're doing a lot of different things all at the same time, but really important things for families.
Pam Bondi, by the way, this cold case languished 4 years until Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino came to the FBI. No new tips, no new witnesses, just good, diligent work. That is Attorney General Pam Bondi on the pipe bomber arrest. Last question for you.
Great.
I know, Congressman, there was hope that there was going to be a SCORE Act passed as it had to do with college athletics. That has now been shelved as it's continuing to be worked on. You are in Louisiana. Congrats on Lane Kiffin. For people out there, and a huge majority of our audience are college sports fans. What are you guys trying to do, and what's the latest you can tell us on that act?
Yeah, and I still want to see us bring this bill to the floor because it's important to anybody who loves college athletics, me included. I know you do. In many people, millions around the country, have seen over the last few years it's become the wild, wild west. And why is that? It's because through a lot of things, lawsuits that the NCAA has lost and other things, there is no ability for schools to enforce their own rules anymore. And whether they come together and get behind the NCAA or some other organization, that's not what Congress is dictating. What Congress is going to try to do is say, hey, the schools can actually go and enforce their own rules again in college athletics. And oh, by the way, we also in the SCORE Act put in protections for student athletes that don't exist today. Whether or not students get paid, that issue has already been decided. But right now, there are no real protections for the students who are getting paid. For example, agents. You've got kids 16, 17 years old in high school getting approached by agents with contracts that I'm sure they're not getting teams of attorneys to read. They might be signing their rights away for 10 years when they sign some deal in high school. We put guardrails there so that the students get real protections, so that it limits how much an agent can even get in fees from the student athlete. We protect the Olympic sports. The U.S. Olympic Committee just came out in support of this bill, the SCORE Act, because it does protect Olympic sports and other, women's sports, Title IX sports, for example. So it won't just be football and basketball at every college. You're going to be able to have an array of men's and women's sports that are, some make money, a lot of them lose money, but you're going to be able to have those protections in place at schools as well. So it's an important bill that a lot of universities across the country have asked for. Again, not Congress policing college athletics, but Congress passing a law to just undo all of these bad lawsuits that have been lost over years and years so that college athletics can be governed again. A portal where every year a kid can transfer and somebody can play for 6 years for 5 different schools. And oh, by the way, they're supposed to be getting an education, but they can't even transfer their credits because it's gotten so ridiculous. That can get reined in as well. And I think everybody wants some structure back in place.
Thank you, Congressman Steve Scalise. Look forward to seeing you again, having you again on soon. Keep up the good work.
Hey, we're going to keep getting it done, but we're going to deliver a lot of good things for the American people. Thank you for having me, Clay Buck.